He has been sick since Monday, right? He has been sick since Monday, right?
Yes. Yes.
How long has your mom been cooking? How long has your mom been cooking?
For an hour. For an hour.
Have you been working since morning? Have you been working since morning?
Yes, without rest. Yes, without rest.
How long have you had this car? How long have you had this car?
For 2 years. For 2 years.
Since when have you liked drawing? Since when have you liked drawing?
Since school. Since school.
How long have they been playing outside? How long have they been playing outside?
For 3 hours. For 3 hours.
She's been in the hospital since Friday, right? She's been in the hospital since Friday, right?
Yes, still not well. Yes, still not well.
How long have you been friends? How long have you been friends?
For 10 years. For 10 years.
I haven't seen him since the wedding. I haven't seen him since the wedding.
Same here. Same here.
How long have you been using this phone? How long have you been using this phone?
For 6 months. For 6 months.
He has been absent since Monday. He has been absent since Monday.
I noticed that too. I noticed that too.
How long were you on vacation? How long were you on vacation?
For a week. For a week.
We haven't met since last year. We haven't met since last year.
Let's catch up soon. Let's catch up soon.
How long have you lived abroad? How long have you lived abroad?
For 2 years. For 2 years.
I have been hungry since morning. I have been hungry since morning.
Let's eat now. Let's eat now.
How long have you had a fever? How long have you had a fever?
For 3 days. For 3 days.
She's been busy since her exam started. She's been busy since her exam started.
She'll be free soon. She'll be free soon.
How long have you been here? How long have you been here?
For a few minutes. For a few minutes.
I've known her since childhood. I've known her since childhood.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet.
How long have you been driving? How long have you been driving?
For 10 years. For 10 years.
How long have you been here? How long have you been here?
I've been here since 9 a.m. I've been here since 9 a.m.
How long did you wait? How long did you wait?
I waited for 2 hours. I waited for 2 hours.
Since when are you living in Chennai? Since when are you living in Chennai?
Since 2015. Since 2015.
How long have you lived in this house? How long have you lived in this house?
For 5 years. For 5 years.
When did you join this job? When did you join this job?
Since last August. Since last August.
How long did you stay in Delhi? How long did you stay in Delhi?
For 3 weeks. For 3 weeks.
Since when are you learning Tamil? Since when are you learning Tamil?
Since January. Since January.
How long have you been reading that book? How long have you been reading that book?
For 2 days. For 2 days.
Is this your friend since childhood? Is this your friend since childhood?
Yes, we know each other since we were kids. Yes, we know each other since we were kids.
How long has she been waiting? How long has she been waiting?
For 30 minutes. For 30 minutes.
I've been feeling tired since yesterday. I've been feeling tired since yesterday.
Take a break. Take a break.
How long was the meeting? How long was the meeting?
For 1 hour. For 1 hour.
He has been missing since last night. He has been missing since last night.
That's serious. That's serious.
How long have you had that phone? How long have you had that phone?
For a year. For a year.
She has been teaching me since last month. She has been teaching me since last month.
Is she good? Is she good?
How long have they been gone? How long have they been gone?
For 10 minutes. For 10 minutes.
I've been feeling sick since morning. I've been feeling sick since morning.
Go see a doctor. Go see a doctor.
How long did you stay in Mumbai? How long did you stay in Mumbai?
For 5 days. For 5 days.
He's been learning guitar since March. He's been learning guitar since March.
That's cool. That's cool.
How long have you been a fan of this actor? How long have you been a fan of this actor?
For many years. For many years.
I've been at home since morning. I've been at home since morning.
Didn't go out? Didn't go out?
How long did you stay in the hotel? How long did you stay in the hotel?
For 3 nights. For 3 nights.
I haven't eaten anything since lunch. I haven't eaten anything since lunch.
Let's eat something now. Let's eat something now.
How long has he been studying? How long has he been studying?
For 5 hours. For 5 hours.
I've loved music since I was a child. I've loved music since I was a child.
Me too. Me too.
How long has it been raining? How long has it been raining?
For 2 days. For 2 days.
She's been working since 6 a.m. She's been working since 6 a.m.
That's a long shift. That's a long shift.
How long have you used this app? How long have you used this app?
For a few months. For a few months.
They've been friends since school days. They've been friends since school days.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
How long have you been waiting in line? How long have you been waiting in line?
For 20 minutes. For 20 minutes.
We've been best friends since childhood. We've been best friends since childhood.
You're lucky. You're lucky.
How long did you live in that city? How long did you live in that city?
For 2 years. For 2 years.
I've been reading this book since morning. I've been reading this book since morning.
Is it interesting? Is it interesting?
How long has she had that cat? How long has she had that cat?
For 3 months. For 3 months.
I've known about this since last week. I've known about this since last week.
Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me?
How long was the movie? How long was the movie?
For 2 hours. For 2 hours.
I've been wearing these shoes since Monday. I've been wearing these shoes since Monday.
Still clean. Still clean.
How long have you been online? How long have you been online?
For 30 minutes. For 30 minutes.
She's been working at the bank since 2020. She's been working at the bank since 2020.
That's great. That's great.
How long have you been baking cakes? How long have you been baking cakes?
For 1 year. For 1 year.
I've been coughing since last night. I've been coughing since last night.
Please take medicine. Please take medicine.
How long was the power cut? How long was the power cut?
For 4 hours. For 4 hours.
He's been busy since he started his new job. He's been busy since he started his new job.
Yes, he told me. Yes, he told me.
How long did you play cricket? How long did you play cricket?
For 3 hours. For 3 hours.
She's been practicing dance since childhood. She's been practicing dance since childhood.
That shows. That shows.
How long have you had this headache? How long have you had this headache?
For 2 days. For 2 days.
They've lived in this house since 2005. They've lived in this house since 2005.
That's a long time. That's a long time.
How long have you been watching TV? How long have you been watching TV?
For an hour. For an hour.
We've been working on this project since last month. We've been working on this project since last month.
It's going well. It's going well.
How long have you been in this job? How long have you been in this job?
For 6 months. For 6 months.
I haven't met him since the party. I haven't met him since the party.
Same here. Same here.
How long were you in the queue? How long were you in the queue?
For 15 minutes. For 15 minutes.
I've been writing this story since Sunday. I've been writing this story since Sunday.
Can't wait to read it. Can't wait to read it.
How long have you been tired? How long have you been tired?
For many hours. For many hours.
The baby has been crying since noon. The baby has been crying since noon.
Poor baby. Poor baby.
How long have you lived in this area? How long have you lived in this area?
10 years. 10 years.
She's been gone since the morning. She's been gone since the morning.
Did she say when she'll return? Did she say when she'll return?
How long have you played the piano? How long have you played the piano?
For 5 years. For 5 years.
I've been thinking about this since yesterday. I've been thinking about this since yesterday.
Did you decide? Did you decide?
How long have you had that cold? How long have you had that cold?
For a week. For a week.
They have lived abroad since 2019. They have lived abroad since 2019.
That's a big move. That's a big move.
How long have you had this bag? How long have you had this bag?
For 6 months. For 6 months.
I felt sleepy since morning. I felt sleepy since morning.
Get some rest. Get some rest.
How long were you on the phone? How long were you on the phone?
For 45 minutes. For 45 minutes.
We've been waiting since 5 p.m. We've been waiting since 5 p.m.
That's too long. That's too long.
How long has she been in the kitchen? How long has she been in the kitchen?
For 2 hours. For 2 hours.
He's been quiet since yesterday. He's been quiet since yesterday.
Something must be wrong. Something must be wrong.
How long have you had that laptop? How long have you had that laptop?
For 3 years. For 3 years.
I've been watching the match since it started. I've been watching the match since it started.
Who's winning? Who's winning?
How long have you been learning English? How long have you been learning English?
For 6 months. For 6 months.
He's been sad since his dog died. He's been sad since his dog died.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
How long have they been married? How long have they been married?
For 15 years. For 15 years.
I've been working on this project since last night. I've been working on this project since last night.
That's a long time. That's a long time.
How long did you sleep? How long did you sleep?
For 8 hours. For 8 hours.
They've been friends since college. They've been friends since college.
That's nice. That's nice.
How long have you had this bag? How long have you had this bag?
For 2 months. For 2 months.
I've been tired since morning. I've been tired since morning.
Take some rest. Take some rest.
How long have you known her? How long have you known her?
For a long time. For a long time.
It has been cold since last week. It has been cold since last week.
Yes, winter is here. Yes, winter is here.
How long have you been watching this show? How long have you been watching this show?
For 4 days. For 4 days.